Hey everybody, Carl Verheyen here for Guitar Techniques magazine. I've been friends with these guys for many years, and I'm happy to say that I think it was in the late 80s or early 90s, I was on the cover wearing a red sport coat with B.B. King, who was also on the cover of Guitar Techniques wearing a red sport coat. And the reason I know that is because I framed it and put it in my studio. Anyway, I just finished playing a song called Roll with the Green that Jason Sidwell sent me, and basically it's in the key of A. I played, the first 4 bars are 2 bars of A major and a bar of B minor, and then a half a bar of E and a half a bar of D. So obviously that's all A major, right? So you're going to play A major or Ionian mode for the first 2 bars. And then when you get to the B minor chord, you're going to play B minor Dorian, of course, and then E Mixolydian to D Lydian. Now, I think I started with a little chord voicing like this. And you know, this is, if you ever go on James Taylor's website, he's got a very interesting website where he gives you some guitar lessons. And one of the things he does, he fingers things backwards. You know, I think it's hard to go like this. Hard to pull that finger off, but this way, it works pretty well. And then maybe I played a B minor and then did a little harmonic sweep on it. If you put your first finger, put the pick in your thumb and second finger, and then sweep with your first finger, you get a nice harmonic thing. And then probably a lick in E Mixolydian that went across the bar line or across the bar to the D major. Then the second group of 4 bars, I played A again, but then there's a bar of G to A. Now, when you play that G chord, you don't want to go to G major because that would have a C in it. So I went to G Lydian and was able to sort of go up the Lydian mode scale and get back to the key of A. And then there's a bar of B minor, and then there's another bar of G. They call it G2, which you could play like this. A bit of a stretch, like this, another stretch, or you could play it like this, and that also works here. I sometimes put the 3rd in like this, which is a really nice chord. But once again, I play the Lydian mode over that. Then that whole sequence of 8 bars repeats again, and I pretty much did that. Some of my lines that I come up with, like say for the B minor chord, I try to play intervals. I try to stay away from half steps, whole steps, and scalar motion, playing scales up and down. So I take my B minor apart and play, like for instance, you know, down a major 6 like that, and then down a 5th, and then up a major 7th. And then down a 5th, and then down another major 6, and then up a 9th, and then down another 6, minor 6, up what is that, a whole step and a minor 3rd, I guess that'd be a 10th, a minor 10th. So a line for B minor, for me, might be something like, I think I threw that line in there once or twice. Then the track went to a D minor, and it had 8 bars of D minor. And for that, I added my distortion pedal and just did stuff like this. Let's see, the way I set up all my strats is that the first string, when you pull up the bar all the way, it goes up a half step. On the second string, it goes up a whole step. 3rd string, it goes up a minor 3rd. So I was doing lines like, for the key of D minor, which means my F goes up a whole step. When I release it, it's on an E, and I let it down. You can do the same here. That's the kind of stuff I was doing. Then there's a little line at the end of every 4 bars. And he's probably going, but I like to do this. Something I learned from Jeff Beck, where you bend into a note half step away, and then you grab the note. So that happened at the end of every 4 bars, and then we had one extra bar of E, an E chord. Then the whole progression repeated. And once again, I'm playing the major scale, then the Dorian mode, then Mixolydian, Lydian. And then he had a little 4-bar bridge. And by that time, I was sort of sick of soloing lead playing. So the chords were A sus over G to A over G. So I could think of those as like this. Or, you know, this. But I chose to put the G on top, just for something different. It just sounded cool to me, you know. And then the next chord was an F sharp minor 11, which without distortion sounds something like that. And I could hear that that's what Jason played on the track. So I just did something like that. Then I played an A over E and an E, but I did them like this, which is this whole chord concept I have, and I'll explain a little more about that later. And then I did the same thing up here to C to G, and then had an A chord like that. All these chords have they're basically triads, but with the middle note of the triad popped up an octave, and that's a big thing for me, how I finger my chords and how I work on my chords. So from there on out, I think I just played chordal stuff to sort of simmer the track down. But at the very end, I did something that I like to do, which is a little harmonic lick where you play A, E, C sharp, slide that up to E, A, B, and then play the harmonic on the E that's right here, so 12 frets above. So, sorry. Kind of gets everything ringing. You even hear the A, the low A a little bit, sort of. I try to get that as smooth and fluid as possible. There's a big cut-a-bump drum slap at the very end of the track, so it might have masked that a little bit, but that's what I use. Now, this is a 65 Fender Strat, completely stock except for a 5-way. And when I had the CV special made over at LSL, I copied the neck of my 61 Strat, the weight of my 58 Strat, and this 65 I got the pickups out of, because I just love the pickups on this guitar. I'm playing through my friend's John Suhr head right here. And is it a Badger, maybe? Badger 30, and a Suhr cabinet. And my pedal board has got an Italian pedal on it called an Il Distasore, which is made by VDL Analogics. And the story about that is I was playing somewhere in Italy. I was playing in Pisa, I think it was, or Livorno, and this guy came to me and said, "Mr. Verheyen, this is the sound of you. I've made it in a box." I said, "Great," and I plugged it in, and I said, "It sounds good, but it doesn't quite saturate enough. If you could make it saturated a little bit more, I probably could use it." So he says, "Where do you play tomorrow?" And I said, "Milano." So he showed up the next day with this exact pedal, and I now have 3 or 4 of them. I have them on all kinds of pedal boards and a few loose ones and everything. They're really nice for single coil pickups. If you use these 2 right here, you see how it's a bit on the dark side, but when I got down to that low F sharp, it didn't mush out. And I'm very aware of how single coils, as much as we try to make them sound like humbuckers, it's always you jumping through some more hoops, you know. With single coils, you really have to get that tone right so you don't get too mushy at the bottom, but still have enough saturation and sustain at the top. So I used that, and I used a Seymour Duncan Vapor Trail pedal, and that was it. So anyway, I hope I sounded good, and good luck with your music.